It's the Snubbies.
All right, everybody. This is Evan. Welcome to the second episode of the Snubbies. A little late than never. My apologies for that. It's kind of difficult lining up schedules these days, as the New Year's getting going and everyone's off doing their own gigs here and there. So my apologies. Isaac will not be with us this week. Instead, I have Rob Thelusma, a good buddy of mine. He's going to be coming on, and we're going to be talking about this Oscars So White controversy. For those of you who haven't heard about it, basically a lot of people, rightfully so, I guess, are very, very upset that all of the acting Oscar nomination, all the Oscar nominees are all white. There's no minorities involved at all, and it's not so much of a. I know a lot of people are, some opponents of this are trying to say that, oh well, it's like affirmative action trying to sneak its way into movies and stuff like that. It really couldn't be farther from the truth. I mean, it's really just a matter of there's no opportunity out there for minority actors to kind of showcase what they're doing. It's there's a lot of point of views about it, and all of them are right in their own way, and you know it, so many celebrities weigh in like, oh, we need to have an X amount of nominees be minority, and well, that's not fair because what if the performances aren't that good? And the Academy is trying to do what they can to balance out the fact that it's predominantly white and everything, but it's a very touchy subject, and you know I think whenever anybody opens their mouth about it, they're sure to offend someone, and this probably isn't going to be any different. I'm sure a couple of people are going to listen to this and they're going to hear what I have to say and think that I'm a complete jackass. And I think a lot of people hear what Rob has to say and take that into consideration. But no, there's no right or wrong way to feel about this, I guess, aside from the fact that there it is overwhelmingly. I shouldn't even say overwhelmingly. It's 100% white with the nominations. So, whose fault is that? Is that the fault of the Academy? Is it the fault of producers not allowing vehicles for minority actors to showcase what they got? Um, it's I don't know. It's kind of a mixture of everything, I guess. I don't know. So, we're going to talk about that. Rob and I are going to talk about that, and I don't want to say shed some light because we're not going to be covering any new ground on this. We're just kind of recapping a lot of stuff. But I think it is a very important debate that's going on right now. And my apologies if it seems a little heavy handed. I mean, the point of the show was not to ever be socially aware or anything like that. This was supposed to be just a silly little podcast where we disagree with certain awards that were given out and we take them away and give them to other people. And we're only our second episode into this whole podcast, and suddenly we're doing a socio-political piece here. So my apologies for getting too serious too soon, but this is happening right now, this whole controversy, so it needs to be talked about. So we're going to talk about that. And again, apologies again for not having what is going to be a typical episode. We're compiling a bunch of stuff over here. Which awards are we going to take away and everything? And really, I'd like to hear from you guys about which awards were given to certain movies that you completely disagree with. And I want to get some feedback from you guys. So search us out on Facebook. Look for the Snubbies. Look for that little icon with my face on the Oscar there. You're welcome for that one. Check us out on Twitter at the Snubbies. Let us know what award you think needs to be reassigned, and give us your opinion on who on your just your thoughts on awards in general this year. How did you feel about the Golden Globes? How did you feel about the Oscar nominations? We're going to be coming up on the Oscars pretty soon here, and there's already controversy just on the nominations alone. So it's going to be kind of a strenuous task to have to sit through this and know that a lot of people are really, really upset about it. So What do you think? Let us know. I want this to be a very interactive show. I want a lot of listener input. So, the more you participate, the better this show gets, and we can kind of reach out to you guys as well. I would also, eventually love to have listeners call in and actually voice some opinion. With technology the way it is now, I can certainly have some people, across the country, hopefully across the world, for the one person overseas that would ever listen to this thing. So, yeah, let's get involved, everybody. I want to hear what you have to say, and hopefully you're not completely driven crazy by the sound of my voice yet. So, Rob's going to be coming on here pretty soon. So let's take a quick time out for some investor opinions, even though we have no investors. So I guess that's not going to really happen. So if there is anybody in there who wants to invest in the show, let us know. But for right now, just a quick little time out, and we'll be right back with Rob Thelusma and this Oscar So White controversy. All right, guys, this is Evan. I'm joined with my good buddy Rob Thelusma.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Rob, you want to give a little introduction to yourself, kind of give your background on
Sure, Ero. Good friend of Ero's, the mighty Evan. I'm an actor, writer, voiceover talent. Like to think of myself as a philanthropist. I run my own nonprofit program.
And what program is that?
It's called Affirmative Athletics. What we do is we create leagues for probation youth, kids that are incarcerated. So we do a flag football season every year, and we do a basketball season every year.
That's
We're
awesome.
about to do basketball in March.
Very, very cool. How long you been doing that for?
Since 2005, brother.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congrats. That's some longevity there.
Thank you, man. I mean, it's been on and off a couple of years, because it's hard to do anything without funding.
Right.
But technically speaking, we've been doing it since 2005.
Very cool.
We've done it at over the years at 3 probation facilities.
Mm-hmm.
And we're about to start up our basketball season in March, so I'm pretty excited about that.
Very cool. If someone wanted to donate to that, how could they do so?
Right now, we are working on getting our own 501c3, exciting stuff, but we are under a organization which has a 501c3, so we're umbrellaed by them right now, and they're called Freedom Assembly.
Very cool.
But information's all on the website is www.affirmativeathletics.org. And you can check us out on Facebook, we're Affirmative Athletics, Twitter, Affirm Leagues. We like to give these kids some voices because God knows nobody hears them out. So
that's awesome. That's that's more than I can than I do. So that's I commend you. That's fantastic. So all right, here we go. Like I said, I'm going to do an intro for this later. But
people, his face is really serious, and that's saying something.
Well, right? The whole point of this podcast was not to be serious, and like I was just explaining to you off the air, this is kind of a big deal that we're talking about. This is and I hate using hashtags. Man, do I hate it. The hashtag oscarssowhite, and correct me if I'm wrong, you are a black gentleman.
Yes, I had last time I checked.
For those who can't obviously see Rob. Rob is a very attractive black man.
Oh, thank you.
Sexual chocolate, as I like to say.
Yes.
So
love it.
This is, like I said, this podcast was never meant to be serious. But the Oscars So White controversy is kind of too important to not talk about, especially on a show that's about snubbing, nominations and winners and stuff like that. So, the big thing is that it has to be talked about, and there are so many different points of view to talk about. So I guess let's just kind of jump right into it. First off, how did you hear about the controversy? Was it like I saw the nominations and then I got upset about it, or did you hear about the controversy and then check the nominations?
I'd have to say, big bro, it was a little bit of both, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Like, the nominations came out. I saw the nominations, but keeping it real, Ero, I wasn't really mad because isn't this what the Oscars are? Is this what Hollywood is?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, I it's funny, like when you and I were talking off the air, because I've had this discussion with so many different people, white, black, whatever. I mean, and I don't really want to come off as sounding as angry black man, but I think just for me, at the end of the day, being 6'2", being deep, rich, dark chocolatey as I am, there are just certain norms about Hollywood that I've come to accept.
Which are?
That it's a white man's world.
Mm-hmm. Now, is that, and again, like I guess we're just going to kind of sprinkle this with the different opinions that are out there.
Right.
I think it was George Clooney who had originally said that it's not the fact that the nominations are so skewed towards white only. It's there are no real opportunities for minorities to showcase their talents, and that's being represented in the nominations.
I will agree wholeheartedly with that, but I'll take it even a step further.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure, as you know, Jada Pinkett Smith came out to really voice this thing that's going on.
Right.
Okay. So with that, I'll say this. I need to put this card on the table. I'm a huge fan of Jada Pinkett Smith.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's one of the most talented actresses of our generation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I love her. And I do think she brings a lot of valid points. Okay.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay. There's a part of me that also says I think she's just a little butthurt that her man didn't get nominated.
And I think that is an opinion that's kind of shared with a lot of people. And eventually here, I'm going to go down the nominees individually. But I agree that her husband should have been nominated.
Right.
I take it you saw Concussion.
Yes, I did.
Probably Will Smith's best work, if not ever.
Yeah, I was about to say, right.
Definitely since... Pursuit of Happiness, would you say? Because he's predominantly an action guy, an action comedy guy.
Right.
So when he does throw the dramatic chops out there, I think he really is showcasing what he can do.
Absolutely, and I thought Concussion really was, being an actor myself, I think Concussion was like a real testament to his hard work and dedication to the role.
Right.
You know? But like I said, I don't want to sound like I'm bashing anybody because I really don't mean it that way, because you're right. This is a really sensitive topic.
Right.
But I think a lot of my issues, Ero, really come from the fact that we're talking about people who have the influence and the juice, so to speak, to make more movies.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I mean, you know, not putting anybody's business on the street, but we're talking about people whose net worth are like what, 150 to 200 million dollars.
Now, are you talking like studio people?
Well, no. I mean, okay. So let me backtrack a little bit. Okay, so for me, right, I can't expect the studio head from Paramount who's sitting at his desk, who more likely than not is a white man, right, to say, oh my God, I think we need to have more black people in movies, or I think we need to make more quote unquote black films, whatever that may mean to you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's just not gonna be on his radar. I don't think that means he's burning crosses in the back of studios. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I just think that that's just coming from his perspective, because that's what we're dealing with and that's what we're talking about. Right.
There's a formula that works for them, and if they deviate from that, it's their head that rolls.
Absolutely.
If it doesn't make money.
Absolutely. So I'm not knocking that cat.
Right.
Okay. But what I will say is, you know, if you have like a prominent, like let's say a black actor, right, who has really made a name for himself, and I'm not just talking just critically, I'm just talking monetary too, right? You know what I mean? Like if he's making like $50 million annually,
like a Samuel L. Jackson type of a guy.
Right. This guy or this person, male or female, whatever it be, can literally, when you think about, come out of pocket himself and make a movie, right? Or even two. I mean, like I said, before we started recording, this takes my opinions all over the place because, in my opinion, like, you don't need $50 million to make a good movie, do you,
No.
Hero? No.
And the thing, and please forgive the horrible pun. It's not intended. It is not black and white. In terms of there are, I mean, we just said, like, you're talking about the nominations being all white, but then that gets into the people that are pushing the buttons, but then that gets into the demand, but then that gets into, well, who can step up? Like, let's say Samuel L. Jackson might want to step in the director's chair and put his own money up in there. He's not really doing that. So is it a sense of, like, the people that are the most angry aren't doing enough to change the situation as it is, even if they have kind of the means to do it? I don't know.
I think that's a part of it. See what I'm saying about, we're talking about the problem is just bigger than that. Like, yeah, I do think that's a part of it. And here where we're talking about Sam, right?
Yep.
Maybe Sam doesn't want to direct. That's fine. But you're going to tell me that there's not a kid or somebody that Sam could find if he bothered to roll up his sleeves and look around and say, oh, man, this kid's got some vision. Let me give him $2 million and see what he can do.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? You put your name on it as executive producer. Sam's name alone as executive producer. Well, Ero, you would check that out.
Oh, absolutely I would.
Right?
Because, I mean, that's the whole point is I've been watching Samuel L. Jackson since, Do the Right Thing?
Yeah.
And we're going to get into Spike Lee in a second. But, I mean, I don't follow a man's career and all of a sudden be like, I'm not going to follow it anymore. Like, no, I'm on board. So, yeah, if Samuel L. Jackson came out and said, hey, I'm putting my name behind this, check it out, I'm going to say, well, you haven't done me wrong yet, so I might as well keep going.
And with that thought, right, you introduce new directors, new writers, even new faces in front of the camera, right?
The thing that's so interesting about all this is, it wasn't last year, I think it was 2 years ago, you had Steve McQueen winning for 12 Years a Slave. Now, I think this starts to get into a more politicized side of it, which, is probably part of it.
Yeah.
12 Years a Slave, obviously, it's kind of that, I shudder to say, but it's kind of like that token black piece, where it's like, it's not a movie like Creed, where you have, a young black character who is really kind of, this is their success story. This is their rise to fame. It's more of like Glory is one of my all-time favorite movies. I don't know if you've ever seen that one.
Yes,
it's without a doubt one of the greatest war movies of all time.
And Denzel is badass.
Denzel is badass. One Best Supporting Actor. One that is not an award I will ever put on this podcast because he deserved that. But it's just like, is that the kind of only the, and I hate to call it like a black movie, but
no.
Is that the only way a black movie can win? Is if it's a historical racial?
Ero, I will say this, and I was saying this with a writing partner of mine who's a brother as well. I think that's where the undercover racism in Hollywood happens, because
this is like the liberal racism.
Right. Well, what I mean by that is for quote unquote black movies to get funded at that scale, right? It has to be investors or executives, right, have to be sure that they're going to get their money back.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, if you're going to make that investment, you want that back. So with that comes a box or a black box, if we want to make a joke of it, of how...
That's more of an airplane joke. But...
Okay. Well, how blacks are seen, right? So my joke with my writing partner is always, it's either we're slaves, there's like a cookout, or we're on our knees praying in church, or there's some dude in a dress.
Can you think of a movie that's been financially successful that doesn't fit that mold within the last, 5 years?
Absolutely. Just off the top of my head, Blade.
Oh,
5 years. 5 years. I'm sorry.
I mean, that's still a good example.
Yeah, but Blade is an example of that, right? Black superhero, vampire, no less.
And
right?
that was a hell of a movie.
Blade's, so Ero, I just saw Blade when I was in Florida visiting the folks, just late night, it was on HBO.
Was that your first time seeing it?
No. I've seen Blade millions of times, but I hadn't seen it in a while. The point I'm making with that is I watched it and I was like, wow, this movie still holds up.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because if we were to have a discussion about like cop movies, like cop action movies and stuff like that, I think the immediate reaction is everyone's going to say Die Hard is like the ultimate cop action movie.
Right.
Then you start getting to like Lethal Weapon and stuff like that.
My favorite.
But I gotta say, wow, I just had a total brain fart there. I wasn't gonna say Wesley Snipes. Shit, I was going somewhere with that too. I'm gonna have to cut this out. Wow, I mean, obviously you could say like Beverly Hills Cop, stuff like that.
Right. But that's getting a little too far from what people.
Passenger 57.
Oh, right.
Because we were talking Wesley Snipes.
It's yeah.
That, I mean, Wesley Snipes has fallen off the map because he's kind of fallen into Nick Cage territory where he's taking movies just for paychecks because he's had his own financial issues as well.
Right.
But there was a point there where Wesley Snipes comes out with a movie. I'm gonna go see it.
Yeah,
because it's gonna be entertaining as hell.
Chocolatey Brother too. Got to put that out there because that's a part of it.
What was it? Was it he the one that when Chappelle was doing the Charlie Murphy thing, they called him Darkness or something like that? Was that? Oh no, that was Eddie Murphy.
That was Eddie Murphy. Yeah,
right.
Eddie Murphy.
But I mean,
Snipes was, as a younger cat, Snipes was a huge inspiration to me.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're both real chocolatey dudes, and to see, I mean, as great as Denzel is, you know what I mean. Denzel's on the lighter shade of brown, So to see a big action star who looks like, I mean, all my heroes are like Wesley was one of my heroes. Richard Roundtree, that's a little before your time, but Shaft was a huge influence.
Let me put this out there as a behind-the-scenes technical aspect of it. Do you think they opt to go with the lighter skin black guys because it's harder to light them, or it's easier to light them?
No,
because
it's
and the only reason why I say that is because whenever I'm working on set and I have another black friend named Rob, which is it's very, I tried to get him in here as well.
I'm insulted to be honest with you.
Well, you're number one.
No,
you are absolutely number one.
I'm not feeling you right now.
But regardless, I know you're going to leave now, aren't you? Whenever they need like a stand-in or something, and Rob is helping me out on set, I'll be like, Rob, can you come in? And the DP will look at me and be like, can you get somebody else? Like, I can't use Rob. I know that's kind of a cheap way of looking at it.
Hey, I don't know about cheap, but I personally think globally the world has a problem with dark-skinned people.
I really am not in a position to deny that at all.
That is my personal belief.
Yeah. Now, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, even look at Obama. People are saying he's not black enough to be a black president.
I mean,
what do you say to that?
That's going into a whole different other territory, man.
I know we're not getting political, but but it's just, you're absolutely right. It's
Eero, it's so I think the long short end of this convo that I'm loving having with you, right, is that if we're gonna talk about this, that in my deal is my boy will, like I said, my writing partner tell you, I'm always more about, I think we have to talk about the state of cinema.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the conversation we have to have. You know what I mean? And it's not just about casting black people in movies. It's about how we make movies. You know what I mean? Why we make movies. You know what I mean? Somewhere along the way, I think one of the things that killed, I won't say killed because it's not dead, but I mean really hurt moviegoers is that all of a sudden everything was emphasized on the price tag of the movie.
Right. Well, that's evident with the fact that the only thing we get in the summer these days is either a remake, a reboot, or a comic book movie.
Right.
There's no quality.
Right. Well, I'm not even saying, I'm not even crapping on that. You know what I mean? Because I'm not even saying that those things couldn't be bad. You know what I mean? I mean, there's some comic book movies that I love because I'm a comic book guy. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying you're saying
but it falls under what you were saying about how the opportunity to expand and just show people a new light in terms of what we can do with filmmaking. Bottom line is, like you said, we're looking at it in a financially number only way.
Right.
So it's like, if I go to a studio, say I got a $20 million movie I want to make, it's about this black actor or this black guy who does this, they're immediately going to say, well, let's take that money and go make a comic book movie instead. And I don't think I'm far off by assuming that.
No, not at all.
Uh,
I think you're right on point, to be honest with you.
So it's,
in my opinion.
and I think that definitely it transcends a lot of things, but it also, if the audience is not exposed to something like that, then there's not going to be any demand for it.
But I agree with you, but I think there is a demand for it. You know what I mean? I think
there is, but I'm sorry, I meant like demand in terms of the front office.
Oh,
in that kind of
right,
sense.
right. But you see, even these front offices, though, I think they've all accepted the narrative. If you know what I'm saying, like a talented guy like I know you are, you'd probably have a script, right?
I've got very marginal talent. Let's
brother, I'm just saying, right?
Rein it in.
Let's say you walked into a studio with a great story, but it only cost, I don't know, like $3 million to make, right? Automatically they pause, right?
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with the story or anything. And the narrative is that's too small of a budget,
Right.
which
is weird because
ridiculous. Not even weird. It's ridiculous.
I mean, you know the realm that I come from. I could make 3 movies for $3 million, but
but you see, this narrative has really hurt a lot of people. And I'm talking even established people, you know what I mean? People that make small movies.
Well, because we kind of touched on it a little bit. Let's talk about Spike Lee, because he makes, I don't want to say low budget movies, because he doesn't get that funding. I personally don't like Spike Lee. I think his movies, in terms of style, leave a lot to be desired. I think he's kind of, I don't like him because he's a Knicks fan.
And you leave me and you let me in your house.
I know you're a New York fan. Sorry. I have a problem with him, and this is not the example. What we're talking about now is not that example, because he obviously has a right to say anything he wants in this situation. I think he tends to open his mouth about things that he doesn't have a dog in the fight for, if you know what I mean. Now this is the exception. He was misquoted saying he's boycotting the Oscars, and he's like, well, I'm not boycotting the Oscars. I'm just not going. Although he didn't really have a reason to be there in the first place. But he is one of those directors who works with small budgets, and he is probably, I mean, I think Steve McQueen is going to give him a run for his money in the next couple of years, but he is the perennial black director.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, Do the Right Thing is considered one of the greatest movies of all time.
They study that in school.
Exactly. I mean, you can't be a great director when people in film school are watching your movies and studying how you did it. So, but what are your thoughts on him just in general? Because I feel like he falls under the Al Sharpton category, where he makes himself the voice of an entire group of people when he wasn't asked to be. I think that's kind of my view of him. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on him?
I have nothing but respect for Spike. Keeping it real, Spike is one of my heroes that made me even love film,
And I don't doubt that at all. I will go so far as to say he is one of the most influential directors out there.
I mean, for my generation, I mean, because I'm pausing because I'm trying to find the words to explain how I feel about Spike. I mean, have I loved everything that Spike has done? Absolutely not.
No, I mean, I think aside from Stanley Kubrick, there's no director that I could say I love every movie that he does. So.
Right. But I think Spike is important.
Without a doubt.
Around, you know what I mean? It's important to have him around.
You can't have a talk about film history without including him.
It's without a doubt.
Mm-hmm. I think it's funny that, for me at least, my favorite Spike Lee movie is Inside Man with Clive Owen and Denzel.
Right, which is a really good one. Jodie Foster.
Jodie Foster, too.
Yeah, that's a great movie.
I like it because it's the least Spike Lee movie that he's done, in my opinion. Because when I first saw Do the Right Thing, I was kind of taken aback by it. Obviously, I'm not the demographic for it, But I know I kind of got like the message was it's okay to use violence if someone is disrespecting you. But then when you step back and you're like, well, it's been a disrespect for so long. What's the breaking point?
Right.
And maybe that's the point.
That is the point.
So I don't know. It was definitely a movie that kind of made me step back, and I was like, I'm not sure about this. Like, I'm feeling different how everyone is saying I'm supposed to feel about it. And in a way, it's kind of like music. You know how like when you grow up, everybody's like the Beatles are the greatest band of all time, and you're like, but I like the Rolling Stones, or I like Pink Floyd, and you're like, no, it's the Beatles. And you're like, all right, maybe I need time to simmer on it, but it is definitely. I think Spike Lee is one of those directors, and there are several like him that if you say you don't like him, it's almost blasphemy.
Right.
But at the same time, I think he's also put up on a pedestal, maybe because there's not many people beneath him making similar movies.
Well, yeah, or I mean, except for Steve McQueen coming out, how many black directors have made an impact like Spike?
Those are the only two that come off the top of my head. So again, circling back, that's the problem.
Well, exactly.
There's no one, and I don't want to say diluting the market, but if those are your only two options, are Spike Lee and Steve McQueen, then you're like, well, I don't have much to watch.
Right, but then again, now we go across my umbrella about the state of cinema.
Exactly.
Which is where my beefs always lie. I don't know what this means, and I don't know what that means. I don't know if it means like studios got to be more accepting of lower budget movies, because I don't know if that time will ever come by again.
I think
I don't know.
I gotta say, taking the race card out of it, I think we're getting to that point because there is a lot of backlash from people who don't want to see comic book movies anymore. They don't want to see sequels. They don't want to see reboots. They don't want to see remakes. There's a call for people from, I think, the vast majority of audience that are like, give me something new, give me something fresh. And I think more than ever, especially with this Oscar controversy, I think the door's opening very quickly, or at least I'm hoping it is.
Right. I don't. Eero, like I've been saying, I don't think you can count or bank on studios to do that, because ultimately it's a business for them. You know what I mean?
No, you're right.
I mean, Eero, let's keep it real, man. The people that we're talking about are not artists.
Yeah, they're businessmen.
They're businessmen. They went to school for business, and they apply certain business, quote unquote, techniques or principles to these industries that we love. So I think my deal ever since this thing came out is you hear the anger, and whereas everybody's angry, I laugh at it. And it's not to be condescending, but it's really just like, but the Oscars have always been this.
Yeah.
I think, so not to sidetrack, but I think you'll get the comparison. Like, okay, so many moons ago, I got involved with a program that dealt with, kids in probation. And I was appalled at seeing all these kids, and I mean literally kids, though in gangs and stuff, looking like me, and are locked up and are locked away from their families from maybe 3, 6, 9 months, maybe a little more than a year at a time. Some return offenders away from their families forever. The point I'm making is just when I saw this, it really, Eero, it burned in something in me like no other. I mean, you're a dad. I'm not a dad, but I can tell you, I guess dad instincts took over. And one morning after a wonderful football season, I got up and I was just like, F it, man. I'm going to start a flag football league. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I just said I'm going to do it because I think the kids need something. I mean, Eero, they don't even have counseling in these places. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they just kind of put them away, and
they just put them away, do their time, and hope they become better criminals to feed the system. That's what probation really is, if we got to break it down to the heart of the matter. Okay? But in 2005, it led me to do that and to where I'm at with it now. And the point I'm saying is, especially with these influential black actors and actresses, be the change that you want to see. And I know that sounds corny and that kind of sounds cliche when you've been around enough, but it's true. I'm not expecting somebody at Universal to really see or care that there aren't enough black faces around.
And I guess, and this is a very crude way to sum up what you just said, but I'm gonna expand on it. It's almost like a put your money where your mouth is type of a situation.
No, you're right.
Because, and this is why, again, like I said, I'm not a fan of Spike Lee, but I'm respecting his I don't want to say his take, because we all know what his take is. I'm respecting his voice on this one, because when Jada Pinkett Smith came out, I feel like Spike Lee has the means to make movies, and he does, and he makes his movies. Whereas Jada Pinkett Smith, hey, you've got the means to make movies between you and your husband. Where's your director chair? Like, where's the movie that you're gonna say I'm gonna change this for, instead of just complaining about it?
Or Ero, I'm not. I mean, that's a great. I think that's awesome what you're saying. But here's where I'm coming from. You don't even need to direct it if you're them. You know, you don't even need to star in it. My point is, if you want to see the change, you know, you gotta bring in groups of people. You know what I mean, Ero? You gotta. I mean,
they have the means to make the change, so why not do it?
Ero, you have and in Hollywood, change means what? Influence. It means money. At the end of the day, anyone can say what they want. You know what I mean? You can be all artsy fartsy about it or whatever. But that's really what makes change. It's people with influence to make change. You know, a lot of black people are gonna hate me for this, but I love Quentin Tarantino.
Mm-hmm.
I'm never going to talk bad about Quentin Tarantino. You'll never hear me catch about Quentin. And I will tell you for this reason alone, Ero. You're going to tell me a prominent white director who wants to work with black people behind the cameras and in front of the cameras, and you're going to expect me, a working actor, is going to have a problem with a guy like that? It's never going to happen.
Well, I think it's always hilarious whenever people accuse certain directors of being racist or anything like that.
Right.
I would make the argument that a director is racist if they're only directing white casts. But who's the first actor you think of when you think of Quentin Tarantino?
Sam Jackson?
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's in every single, well, maybe not Reservoir Dogs or whatever. He's in every single one of his movies. He loves him. He puts him, he is, in some cases, like look at Kill Bill. He's the voice of God. He's got a small role, but he's that voice of God character.
Ero, and more importantly, he works with black people behind the scenes too. You know, people on his sets are mostly African American or what have you. You know what I mean? Like he's trying to make the change around him.
Right.
So I'm never gonna get on a cat's back for anything if you're doing that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? I mean, that's just,
I think a lot of people, they see what comes across on the screen and they think that translates to how it gets
right,
done.
Right.
It's like, no, if that was the case, a movie like Glory would never happen, because what you're saying is like, oh, you're portraying them as like a losing regiment, but like, let's look at you're telling a predominant story and look at the cast.
If you have Caucasian directors or producers wanting to cast, Quentin Tarantino, Paul Thomas Anderson, who I love, hey man, J.J. Abrams. People forget the highest grossing movies going on right now, Ero, has a brother in the lead.
And not to take this away from the subject, not just a black man, but a female as well.
Right.
You have the two most discriminated classes, women and black males in the industry, taking over the franchise.
A franchise. Please say that word, a franchise.
It is a franchise, because I don't know if you heard, Disney came out the other day and they said there's no end in sight for Star Wars. We're going to make Star Wars 17.
If we can do it. Yeah.
And and I'm going to use this to transition, because I know you got to skip out in a little bit, but I want to talk about the actual nominees. I mean, just looking at John Boyega, who is the dude from Star Wars.
Yeah.
He is carrying a franchise now on his back.
On his shoulders and back.
All right, so let's talk about the actual nominees here for a second, because that's the point of the show. I mean, I'm glad that we got this conversation down, because it's an important one to have. Here are the 5 nominees for Best Actor.
Yes, sir.
You've got Bryan Cranston for Trumbo, Matt Damon for The Martian, Leo for The Revenant, Michael Fassbender for Steve Jobs, and Eddie Redmayne for The Danish Girl. Right away, who do you get out of who do you kick out of that category?
I'd have to say the brother from Danish Girl. I haven't seen The Danish Girl.
He's one that I would not kick out because
He
he won.
I haven't seen that,
he
so I
won
have
it
to be
last
fair.
year. He won it for playing Stephen Hawking, Theory of Everything. Eddie Redmayne is going to be one of the greatest actors of all time. I think, if anything, just from this list, if anyone's going to give Leo a run for his money, it's going to be Eddie Redmayne. That being said, haven't seen Trumbo yet, haven't seen Steve Jobs. Everything I've heard is that there were meh performances.
Right.
But Matt Damon, did you see The Martian?
Yes, I did.
What do you, thoughts? To me, it's not an Oscar movie.
I mean,
The movie itself doesn't scream Best Picture. His performance. When you're comparing Matt Damon performances, when you put this up against something the likes of Good Will Hunting, like,
right.
sorry, this is a generic sci-fi action movie.
Right.
So
it's Lost on a Planet.
yeah,
I mean,
which he's done before.
Castaway on a Planet.
Exactly. So
Is always my take on it.
so for me right away, Matt Damon. As much as I love Matt Damon, I'll see anything he's in.
I'm a huge fan of Matt Damon.
He's out.
Man.
For me, he's out. And
I'm not mad at that.
And I'm also going to put, and as much as I love Breaking Bad, Bryan Cranston's out and Fassbender's out.
I think Fassbender too. Yeah.
So for me,
And I like Fassbender too.
I love Fassbender.
The Foss is great.
I mean, you want to talk about all-time villains? We were talking about 12 Years a Slave. Holy shit! I mean, what he did in 12 Years a Slave,
Yeah.
made me hate myself. I mean, it's hard to watch him do things in that movie and not just have a visceral reaction to it. So I started kind of putting some names together. Now, before we even get into the minority category, 3 white actors who should have been in that category over those 3. I had Mark Ruffalo from Infinitely Polar Bear. I had Johnny Depp from Black Mass because I thought that was a good performance. I know I'm a Boston guy. But the person who I would actually give the award to, who wasn't even nominated, is Jacob Tremblay from Room. The little boy from the movie Room.
Wow.
Because you talk about, for me, Room was the second best movie this year behind Mad Max. I'm on record as saying Mad Max was the best movie this year.
You think Mad Max Best Picture? Huh?
Well, I don't think it's going to win. I think The Revenant is going to win Best Picture.
Yeah, I do too.
But for me, Mad Max was the best movie of 2015. The second best movie, but I'm not going to give any acting awards for Mad Max for obvious reasons.
Right.
It's overacting. Jacob Tremblay, this little boy, and the Oscars have a hard-on for giving nominations for child actors. I'm shocked that this kid wasn't nominated. He carried that entire movie on his back. Him and Brie Larson. It's his movie. So I would have given it to him. But those are 3 white actors. Now, there was an article, I think, on BuzzFeed, or maybe it was like Mandatory or something like that, that said Michael B. Jordan should have been nominated for Creed.
Right.
What are your takes on that one?
I think Michael B. Jordan is a really, really fine actor, and I think he's gonna, you know what I mean.
But what do you think about him in Creed?
I don't know. See, again, I don't know.
To me, I loved Creed.
I did too, but I don't know if I would give him. No,
I wouldn't do it.
No, I don't think I would either.
For me, the 2 people if we're gonna go like affirmative action-y on this and just like automatically throw minorities in there, I'm gonna go Will Smith Concussion, who should be nominated.
Yeah.
It's his best performance in years, and it's one of the best performances of 2015. Will Smith should have gotten a nomination for Concussion. And then I would put John Boyega, because you can't have the highest gross. Is it officially the highest grossing movie of all time?
I think I read that somewhere. I don't quote me on
I know
that.
North
but
America it is.
So then that must have been what I read. I'm not gonna lie. I'm just like, wow, a brother is carrying a franchise. That's where my mind has been every time his name is brought up.
And he was
like, wow.
funny.
Yeah.
And he could deliver the lines, and he could do action. I'm sold. Like, this guy, like, I'm constantly looking at his name as we're talking, because it's still not a household name yet.
Yeah.
But it's got to be, because Harrison Ford doesn't come out of nowhere in the 70s and do Indiana Jones and Star Wars and not be a household name. This guy's going to be a household name.
He should. Have you seen Attack the Block?
Have not seen Attack the
You
Block.
should see Attack the Block.
You're not the first person to tell me that.
He carries a very small independent movie like with broad shoulders.
So he's the star of that one?
Yes,
okay.
he
Then I'm in. Because I loved him in Star Wars.
Well, you'll dig that movie. It's crazy concept.
And I think the other one that they said was Samuel L. Jackson should be nominated for Hateful Eight. I haven't seen Hateful Eight yet. But to me at this point, I think he's playing the same. I know we just got done talking about how he's so awesome, but I think he's playing the same characters in Tarantino movies.
Sam.
Yeah, exactly. Which,
You know
again, I'm all in.
All in.
I don't think you just throw a nomination. That was one of the people that BuzzFeed said should be in. Now, the women this year, I mean, there's going to be a whole nother podcast dedicated to the women because it is a weak year for women actors.
I mean, isn't it? I won't say it is always, but I mean,
so again, it's.
I feel for the females too, man.
Yeah,
you know,
I mean, so the 5 nominees for Best Actress. How you doing on time?
I'm sorry, I'm okay.
Okay.
I'm all right.
So the 5 nominees for Best Actress are Kate Blanchett for Carol, Brie Larson for The Room, Jennifer Lawrence for Joy, Charlotte Rampling for 45 Years, and I'm gonna butcher this name, Saoirse Ronan for Brooklyn. I can't think of any roles this year where a minority female would be nominated, and that speaks to the low quality projects that are out there. I would put Daisy Ridley from Star Wars in the category, but she's white.
Yeah, right.
For the same reasons that I would put John Boyega in there. I gotta say though, did you see Carol?
No, I have not. I haven't seen Carol.
I've seen it before. It like literally, I started doing this last night. So my son was up at 2:00 in the morning being fussy, and I had to lay with him for a while. I started going on Twitter at the movie dude 16x9, and I just started doing like 140 character summaries of movies, and I'm trying to remember exactly what I put for Carol, but it's a movie that's been done before, and apparently this director is only making movies about gay people in the 50s. Like that's his thing. He's only going to do that from now on, which is like dude, like you make one movie like that, that's awesome, but if you're going to hang in that realm, like don't expect the fanfare because we've seen it.
And you don't grow as a person or an artist either.
No, you're
right.
pigeonholing yourself.
Right.
So this is what I wrote for my summary of Carol. Hey, want to pretend we're not gay for a while, then have sex, then pretend it was wrong, but still like each other? Okay. That's what that movie was all about.
Right.
So I don't think, and again, this will go into the supporting actress. I don't think Rooney Mara deserves a nomination. I don't think Kate Blanchett deserves a nomination. It was a dull movie. It was a dull story. I've seen it before. It was unoriginal. And, I mean, Kate Blanchett, come on, she's capable of doing so much better things. I think this year the award has to go to Brie Larson for Room, for the same reason that Jacob Tremblay deserves a nomination and to win.
Right.
But again, minorities in Best Actress category are non-existent.
I mean,
I can't think of a single one.
And then we go back to that conversation, and then I say, okay, so what? I had somebody on my Facebook page tell me when this conversation was brought up there, like the term Oscar worthy. I have no idea really at the end of the day what that means, because isn't that subjective?
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So again, see, this is what I'm talking about.
Well, it's subjective to a predominantly white group of critics.
Right.
Well, it's not critic, you know.
Well, whatever.
Yeah.
But I just think we have to look at this whole thing as a whole. And I think we have to look at this whole film business as a whole.
And I think the Academy is doing the right thing by adding to up to 50% of the. I mean, what else are you gonna do?
I get it, Eero. I mean, at the end of the day, I think why I always give the gas face about stuff like that is because it's just a reaction.
It is a reaction, and I don't necessarily think it's going to change anything.
I don't either.
But at least you're getting a more collective voice, I guess, is the right way to say it. Like, people are saying we need more Black and Latino actors nominated. Well, it's subjective. It comes down to, are they worthy of being nominated?
Right. I agree with that.
So I guess if you're only asking white people, then yeah, you're going to get a skewed vision. Now, if you start to have, and again, I don't think it needs to be 50-50. It can be 40-60. It can be 35-65, white versus minority. But I think if you only have that group, then yeah, the opinion is going to be so skewed.
It's always going to be that way.
But I think even this year, if it was 50-50, you would still have these nominees.
Because there's nobody.
There's no opportunity.
There's
no
opportunity.
vehicle.
That's what I'm saying, man.
So, all right.
It's all. You see how this goes? I told you to go like this. It's a really, I don't want to say twisted, but it's
cyclical.
The problem. Yeah, and the problem is big. I mean, it's the issue is big, and it's not just about. It's not just about studio heads. I mean, they're part of it. You know what I mean? But it's not just them.
Not to get away from the nominees, but I mean, well, this should have been nominated. Do you know what movie won the AFI Best Movie of the Year?
No.
Straight Outta Compton.
No.
That is an American Film Institute. It's an American film entity that said Straight Outta Compton was the best movie this year.
Right.
How the hell are you going to have AFI declare that and not give Straight Outta Compton a Best Picture nomination?
Because the people that are voting for Oscars don't see any value in Straight Outta Compton.
It made money. It made money, and it's a biopic.
Try getting a 60-some-odd-year-old white man to sit through Straight Outta Compton, though.
You saw Straight Outta Compton?
I've seen it twice. I love Straight Outta Compton.
I gotta admit.
But again, my view is different on it because I grew up with NWA. You know what I mean? I remember when I first heard NWA. I can tell you exactly when I first heard NWA. You know what I mean? So it means something different to me.
When I was done watching it, my immediate thought was, how did this win AFI Best Picture? And then I sat on it for a couple days, and I was like, no, like that movie is staying with me. Like there's definitely something there, and I think it's the fact that it wasn't just like, oh, here's a biopic about this black rap group. It was so much more than that. It was cultural, it was political, it was socio-political. It was everything plus influence, plus the fact that, hey man, like here's a story that most of us watched unfold. We might not have seen how behind the scenes it was, but like the Paul Giamatti character, I had no idea that dude was involved in anything like that. But that added so much more to it that it was this racial undertone, but there was this white Jewish guy kind of pushing buttons too. So
and robbing them blind.
I love Paul Giamatti, and he plays bad good.
Yes.
But this is actually going to go into my next thing because Best Supporting Actor. So the 5 nominees that are nominated: Christian Bale for The Big Short, Tom Hardy for The Revenant, Mark Ruffalo for Spotlight, Mark Rylance for Bridge of Spies, Sly Stallone for Creed. Right away, I got to get rid of Christian Bale.
Yeah, I would.
Because The Big Short was not that good.
The Big Short made me angry, and that's a whole other conversation.
The only thing that Big Short did was support my decision to root for Bernie Sanders in the election. That's all that movie did.
Right. That's part of me too.
Yeah.
But I mean that movie in general just angered me.
It did, and so yes, it struck a chord. But the other thing is that it's not a well done movie because even though it had those moments where it's like, let's cut to Margot Robbie in the tub and she'll explain. Like, I'm glad you did that for 2 reasons. One, I needed it to be dumbed down for me in that way. And 2, I'm not going to complain if you want to show Margot Robbie in the tub.
I don't know what red hot blooded American male would.
No, and I mean, according to most studies, 99% of women as well. So, I mean, shit, I'll watch an entire movie. I would rather watch her in a tub for 2.5 hours reading the script. So regardless, Christian Bale has got to be out for me. And as much as I love Tom Hardy, that wasn't a role that deserves to be Oscar worthy, if what we're calling. So for me, it's between Mark Rylance, Bridge of Spies, and Sylvester Stallone for Creed. But now getting to that BuzzFeed list of minority actors who should have been nominated. Jason Mitchell for Compton.
I was about to say he would have been,
but I gotta say, not the person I would have chosen from Compton. I would have given it to O'Shea Jackson Jr., who played Cube,
Oh, really?
because I thought the Cube character was better than the Eazy-E character.
Interesting.
I feel like he had more range. I mean, I know that it was like anger 99% of the time,
Right.
because that's Cube. I felt like Jason Mitchell overdid it a bit, so that's why I would give it to O'Shea Jackson. Just my preference.
Right.
But regardless, there's got to be a nominee coming out of that movie, because
you would think
it was too good. It was too good to not have at least one or two nominees coming out of that movie.
Hey, Ro, you had me at hello.
What's up? Another one they said was Benicio del Toro for Sicario. So again, we're not talking just black people. We're talking Latino as well. Oscar Isaac for Ex Machina. Did you see Ex Machina?
Yes, I did.
Interesting choice, right? Yeah. I never would have thought of that. But again, that was interesting because that's a role where race doesn't factor into the story.
At all.
Period.
At all.
And it was a great. It was aside from Alicia Vikander, that was the best role of that movie. Granted, there's only 3 actors in that movie. Well, essentially only 3 actors. But it was good. It was a twisted role. So yeah, I'd give him a bone for that. I'd throw his name in the mix. Then they said Shameik Moore for Dope. Now, I didn't see Dope.
I unfortunately did not see Dope either, so I don't want to.
Yeah, I can't comment on that one.
I can't comment on that.
And then the 2 white guys that they left out, Paul Dano for Love and Mercy and Steve Carell for The Big Short. Wrong actor from Big Short got nominated, but again, I don't think Big Short deserves anything. So,
except a kick down a flight of stairs for pissing me off.
Feel the burn. But so here's the one that they did mention, and here's the one because I just watched this the other day. Have you seen Beasts of No Nation?
Yes, I have.
Holy shit.
I think he was not nominated because it wasn't quote unquote traditionally released in the theaters.
But it had to have been.
Was it?
It had to have been. Like you don't need to release it in the theaters. You can do a screening in New York or LA.
Right.
And so, which they had to have. Because Golden Globes are the same thing. So
Driz is amazing.
That was for me, Beasts of No Nation. I actually came up with like my top 10 of the year, and so my top 10, just going from top to bottom really quick: Mad Max, Room, Revenant, Ex Machina, Inside Out, Star Wars, Beasts of No Nation. Right after Star Wars, Concussion, Bridge of Spies, and The Danish Girl. With honorable mentions for Straight Outta Compton and Spotlight.
It really shows how much you love black people. I just want to put that out there.
Dude, Star Wars is in there. Concussion's in there. Come on, man. I got some representation in there.
Yeah, no, man. I'm applauding that. I'm giving you the black fist in the air.
Beasts of No Nation, and I said this to my wife because she didn't watch it with me. I was saying, like, it has the best character development of any movie that came out this year. It really made me. I felt it in the feels. It was really, really good.
Elba, and just bottom line, if I can, I don't want to, because I could talk about that dude. I mean, he's one of my heroes. I mean, Elba makes everything.
And
believable.
He was the executive producer on it too.
See what I mean?
Money where the mouth is.
Mouth is E-Roll. My take on it forever, E-Roll be, man. Get off your butt and if you've got the money, make some movies, man.
Exactly. And then we'll wrap this up because I know you got to go. Just for supporting actress, I think Alicia Vikander walks away with it for Danish Girl over Kate Winslet for Steve Jobs, Rachel McAdams for Spotlight, Rooney Mara for Carol, which we already talked about, Jennifer Jason Leigh for Hateful Eight. The article mentioned Tessa Thompson for Creed to be nominated. I don't think her role was important enough to consider a nomination. It just wasn't a good role, which again factors back to this whole there's no opportunity for it. But I don't, personally, I would have Rosario Dawson nominated for Infinitely Polar Bear.
I'd have Rosario Dawson nominated for anything.
There you go. She's fantastic.
I get enough for you. They're out there, man. There are plenty of directors, plenty of actors, plenty of writers. Myself being one of them, The reality is
the opportunity.
Opportunity, man. You gotta, and you can't wait on studio heads to do it.
No, because they have their own agenda, and it's just never gonna happen.
Yeah, and again, I don't think it makes anybody evil. It's just what it is.
Yeah. It's the machine.
Yeah, and the people the people within the machine.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you're not gonna expect like a 50, 60-year-old head of a studio just sitting at his desk wondering why there's not enough black people or black faces in his movies. He's just not gonna do that.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're right. All right, so, man, I cannot thank you enough for coming out to the mean streets of Agora Hills.
Hey, brother,
and,
I love you, man. That's what fam does.
So, I appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you as well, brother.
Yeah, because I can't do this episode with two white people. It doesn't make sense. I need the voice, you know. And you got like you said, the chocolatey, velvety voice, so it just makes it that much more pleasant.
I try, brother.
So,
I try.
All right, so I will say goodbye to Rob, and I'll come back to wrap this thing up. So thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you, Ero. Appreciate you.
All right, guys. Just want to say thank you one more time for joining us for this week on the Snubbies. We'll try to get these episodes out a little more regularly. I'd love to do one a week if I can. Like I said earlier, it's hard lining up schedules. So, but once a week is definitely the goal. Hopefully, we can get that accomplished for you guys, so it can be more of a routine thing. So, thanks again this week for Rob Thelusma coming in. Not an easy conversation to have. But Rob's just such an awesome dude. Just, his opinion means a lot to me, and he made some damn good points out there. So hopefully people, take into consideration a lot of the things. And, it's a really messed up year for the nominations, and hopefully everyone can kind of calm down about it and, move on. But I think next week we'll definitely get more of a lighter side. I'm going to try to get my buddy Joey Abalutfi in. We'll share some stories about how we met in the entertainment industry. And I know he's thinking about what award he wants to take away right now. He's got some issues with Ron Howard, I guess. So he wants to take away some Ron Howard awards throughout the years. So we'll see what he has to say. And in the meantime, if you guys want to join us on Twitter at the Snubbies or on Facebook, let us know what awards you guys think need to be taken away. And we'll see what we can do about reassigning some awards that should go to some more deserving people or pictures. So, yeah, thanks again for joining us, guys. I hope you appreciate the podcast, and hope you pass it along, let people know about it, and get our numbers up a little bit. And hopefully we can make this a full-time thing with some more movie podcasts in the future. So enjoy the rest of your week. Hopefully we'll be back next week. And, thanks for joining.
Okay, so I'll see you later, huh? I'll give you a call.
Bye.
Bye-bye, dickhead.
See ya.
Take care now. Bye-bye then.
I'll be back. Bye-bye, buddy.